Thank you for giving me this opportunity, as this society is on the threshold of a very critical path, right? I think there is so much need in terms of patients. I know there are some industry members here, and what I would really like to do is spend about 5 or 7 minutes walking you through a couple of slides of my experience as what, on parallel, industry should be looking at as you work with government to get guidelines in terms of, how do you bank, what's the temperature, what's the critical mass in terms of the regulatory aspect that you've talked about, but really in terms of what the business ethics and what the areas should be. So stop me if you have questions. There are only 5 slides. It's very, very top level, and I'm hoping that it will help you a little bit on focus on both the government regulatory aspect, but also on the business commercialization of making sure that we really, really benefit the patient. So I went on to the Stem Cell Society of India website, and I pulled out 2 aims and objectives, the first 2. And I think they're really very well drafted in highlighting who your partners on this journey are going to be in the next few years. How do these parts play with each other, work together to make sure that we're getting this very, very important therapy area across to patients going forward? So we've talked about the major stakeholders, and really where I've worked in the past 10 years is less on the regulatory side, but more on the marketing code side, which is again evolving to help protect the patient, right? That's the first and foremost stakeholder that everyone in this room is focused on. Provide transparency where industry interacts with healthcare professionals, with prescribers, with government officials, with regulators, and with patient associations, a very new group that's coming into play globally as well as in India. We're beginning to see a bigger voice from patient associations talking about where the spend from government should be going, who should be benefiting from it, what is the level of transparency that industry has in influencing patient associations and the other way around. And this helps to maximize benefit for every stakeholder, particularly the patient, and of course minimize reputational harm. And I think there are lots of lessons to be learned from the pharmaceutical industry that was in the pure form, because a lot of the codes of conduct that have evolved over the years have been because patients have come away feeling that there hasn't been the transparency that they should be getting in terms of how their treatment is being decided, who's giving it to them, and what the benefit of that is. So I'm just going to touch upon, this is literally a very brief checklist of things that we should keep on the radar as we focus with government in actually giving us guidelines, whether they're legal, whether they're prescriptive, whether they are self-regulation, but particularly in terms of business ethics. So anti-corruption continues to be a big driver across the world in the life sciences industry, as in most other industries. I think it's gone beyond seeing anti-corruption as just being a pure bribe. It's gone now to be defined as giving anything of value to influence or unduly influence decision-making, whether it's part of industry, whether it's part of government, whether it's part of healthcare professionals. Conflicts of interest continue to be a major area that all of you will have to work towards resolving. Transparency, how do we interact industry with healthcare professionals? Where are we with informed consents? That's becoming a big critical factor for, particularly in a country like India, where there is a lot of illiteracy, there is poverty, there is desperation, but also in the areas that you are going to be addressing on a medical level, there is desperation, because most people have reached pretty much an end of their journey in terms of where they are in their health treatment outcomes. So really getting in ahead of that in terms of language, in terms of culture. How do we interact again with our stakeholders, whether it's patient associations, whether it's government officials, whether it's healthcare professionals, in hospitality? Something that was acceptable a year ago is no longer acceptable in terms of how we interact. What are the gifts that we can or cannot give people that we are interacting with? Again, is that unduly influencing outcomes and conduct? Professional services agreement, again, are they transparent? Are they in writing? Are they fair market value? Patient associations, which will become one of your key drivers, particularly in the therapy areas that you are focusing your attention on, because those are really, really desperate groups of people who are looking for some solution or at least some help. And of course, privacy data protection, because we're collecting a whole lot of personally identifiable information. There is a whole lot of longevity as to how long this data needs to be maintained if you have stem cell banking. And then, of course, competition law. because there's already talk about price cutting in terms of the banking, how it's being done, how it's being run, how are industry members going to interact with each other and making sure it's all done in a manner that really, really, again, focuses on putting the patient first. And that's it. So just to really highlight a few things that I think we should keep in mind on the radar as we work with government very closely in the session to say we are going to self-regulate and help take this to the next level. Thank you.